thank you all for joining us. Good evening, and thank you all. I'm Brad Cook, president of St. Louis Writers Guild. I'd like to thank everyone who has come out to All on the Same Page Bookstore, and to those of you who are joining us online. I'm joined tonight with Claire Applewhite, Peter Green, and Judy Morisi. We are here to remember the publisher Linda Houle, co-owner of L&L Dreamspell, who has tragically passed away recently. And we are also here to remember Will Bereswill, an L&L Dreamspell author who passed away earlier this year. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge Joe Heiston and T.W. Finley. Both are L&L and St. Louis authors. They couldn't be with us tonight, but I'm sure they're here in spirit and might even pop in online.
Hope so.
But we are here to remember L&L Dreamspell and Linda Houle. But tonight is not about sad times. We are here to talk about the way that L&L Dreamspell created a community for its writers so that they could help out their writers, but not only that, so the writers could help each other. To start off the night, I'd like to ask Claire a little bit, actually. You've published a number of books as a mystery series with L&L Dreamspell. Can you talk a little bit about that work and your work with Linda?
Well, I published 5 books with the Dreamspell. I started back in 2008 when actually they weren't accepting mysteries. It was only fantasy and science fiction. And a friend, Joe Heiston, actually asked me to submit a short story so that the anthology could get published because it needed 12 short stories. And I don't do short stories, so I said, Joe, you're asking the wrong person. But at fellowship, I took one of the stories I had and I shortened it and they accepted it. And they said, do you have anything else? And I said, well, actually, I do, but it's a mystery. And I submitted and they took that, and that was Fat and Doll at that time, and it was The Wrong Side of Memphis later.
Okay.
Which started me out.
So you started them.
That is how I started out with them.
Which is funny because we have all mystery authors with us here tonight from L&L.
It took off from there.
That's exciting. So this question is actually to each of you. So it seems like L&L Dreamspell tried to foster a community among its authors. You guys are all here, and you had more. You've held events together. You've had forums, I understand, with L&L. Events with them, events you've held yourselves. Can you all talk about that a little bit? How L&L helped you with your career, but not also that, how it helped you all together as a whole.
You want to talk?
Well,
you set some of these up. I'd love to hear.
Yes, I did. Linda was instrumental and so much in the artwork and the formatting of the books and everything, and she made postcards for me with the cover of the books and did a lot of work there. And then I got together some of the other Dreamspell authors and set up signings. I set up a signing here at All on the Same Page with 3 of us, with Joe Heaston and T.W. Finley, and then I set up for 6 of our authors at Sage Bookstore in St. Charles, and then also some of our authors and some St. Louis Writers Guild and some Sisters in Crime authors at a library where I had 12 authors, a small press publisher, and a bookstore owner. And people came in, it was called networking, but instead of dating, networking. When I ring a bell, all these different people that came to see the authors would move to a new author and ask them any question they want, and it just kept rotating like that, and they got to find out a lot from the authors and the publishers and the small bookstore owners that they wouldn't necessarily have learned anywhere else.
That's exciting. Pete, can you talk a little about the resources that they had? Or?
Sure. First of all, I was a little skeptical about a small press. Of course, I was shooting for an agent. I'm still shooting for an agent, and maybe I'm starting to get somewhere. We'll see. But they were the only publisher represented. I think it was the 2010 or 2010 Missouri Writers Guild conference in St. Louis. And I had interviewed with all the agents, wasn't getting very far with them, and Linda had some time available, so I talked to her, and she said, yeah, I like that. Why don't you send me a submittal? Send it to Lisa, of course, who was the acquisition editor. This was a partnership of Linda Houle and Lisa Renee Smith, 2 brilliant women who were tireless workers, and I soon discovered that there were many things about a small press that were much more interesting than the stories you hear about the large presses. You get personal attention. They were interested in a whole variety of genres,
by that time.
And thanks to Claire, including ours, Mystery, they're so respectful and accommodating in the personal dealings. They would always ask if we wanted to do it this way, or if we minded if they did this or that. And it was just remarkable. Linda was sort of the outside person. She handled initial invitations of writers. She was the rainmaker. Contracts, cover design, web publishing, and royalties and finance, and distributor relations and relations with all the outside people that you have to deal with to be in business. So you can imagine why Lisa felt a little discouraged trying to take all that on or find it replaced. And so Lisa handled acquisition, editing, editor hiring, and supervision. She had an outside contract editor, at least one that I knew of. She did the interior book design, a beautiful job of it, text selection and graphics. She handled oodles of book files. She kept all of us straight somehow. And I believe she was very active in forming and maintaining the Yahoo group. And there was another community thing a lot of us did together. There are about 130 people on that Yahoo group, I believe. And I'd say about 20 or 30 are regular participants. And it's very rewarding, because if you come out with a new blog post or are interviewed by somebody and put it on the Yahoo group, which is a closed group, you have to be admitted by the publisher, and you put it on the Yahoo group site, people would go to your website, make comments, encourage you, they would ask for advice. It's like some of the LinkedIn groups I belonged in, which are much larger, but this was very intimate and very good, because we were all on the dream team, so-called. So anyway, it was a wonderful resource they brought to us.
I'd like to just backtrack to that Missouri Writers Guild conference just for a minute. Linda was so funny. I offered to send her a plane ticket from Texas, and she said, "I will not fly. I'll do anything to not fly." And she drove all night to get to St. Louis, and without sleep, she came in early to have breakfast with the Dreamspell authors from St. Louis.
Wow.
And I mean, I couldn't believe it.
And then she had a party at the end of the conference just for the Dreamspell up in her suite.
Up in the suite, and she said,
with
I didn't need the Taj Mahal. I said, well, you're my publisher. What am I going to give you? You know. But I mean, she was so cute. You know, she just was going to not fly. She was going to drive. But she was like that, you know, wasn't she? She was bone tired.
Determined lady. I've never met anybody like her.
She had fire in her eyes all the time, you know.
Oh, she was wonderful.
But they were both so easy to work with. Like when I sold a book to them in 2009, I sent the first book, Widow's Walk, off to them, and in 3 weeks I had to go out of state for a week. So I emailed Lisa that I'd be out of town, and she said, well, we've just finished reading the book, so when you get back, there'll be a contract in your mailbox for us.
Ooh, what a nice send-off for your vacation.
And then on the second book, I turned it in December, but I said I needed it by September the 1st of the next year because the World Mystery Conference was going to be in St. Louis, and I was speaking on a panel. I'd like to have my second book out, which of course was a mystery, Tribal Fires. And they got it to me from December to the following September. Generally it takes a year for a book to be finished from the publisher and that. And I sent it to her, and a week later she got back and said, we'll take it and I'll have it to you by September 1st. And she did.
Excellent. So let me ask you this. What did you guys found most helpful in terms of what's coming out of your publisher? Or, what came out of L&L Dreamspell in terms of helping you individually?
What I found most was that Linda worked so hard. She led by example. I don't know what your experience is, but with me, I was a total newbie when I started. Really, I felt very much newbie. She worked so hard, and she didn't let me feel that I was new at all. She acted like, I expect you to toe the line. I expect you to know this. And it really made me rise to the occasion. And she didn't act like you knew it's okay. And it's not okay. And it made me a better writer.
Good. What about the rest of you?
The thing they did for me was buy my book.
Yeah, that was a biggie right there.
Publishing it, I like that.
And then they also, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
They also bought a short story for their Revenge anthology, and I sent it off to them, and I said, I think this will go good in your Revenge. It was a dream I had. And she says, I think so too, and they put it in there, so it was a scary dream.
What kind of dreams do you
I know.
Well, they were a first-class operation. They were just first-class human beings.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just dealing with people like that in an industry which has a lot of them that aren't was a real treat. And just to give you some examples, I mean, Lisa is still giving to us now that she's closed the business. And frankly, I don't blame her. Because what she did, first of all, to find a way for a succession to that business, Linda thought she was never going to die, and she made no plans for it. And certainly, she was relatively young, I guess. I don't have any.
Very young to die, yes.
Yeah, well, certainly very young to die these days. And so she had no disposition plans, and the real class act that they were, Lisa immediately released our rights and closed the company, which I thought was very courageous on her part. It might have had some sale value, but to pull that off, it would have taken a year or more, and here we would have been with our rights hanging in the balance for all that time. And several of you had numerous books, and it was just would have been a disaster. Now we can continue, get our books out as quickly as we can by various routes, which we can talk about if you want to. And she is even allowing us to use files that we had used, just so we take Dreamspell's name off of everything. So she's making it very easy for us to continue and jump right back in. It's very, very nice. So a class act all around.
I heard also from Lisa that Linda was planning to use her ranch as a writer's retreat. She was collecting furniture.
Oh my goodness.
Put in, it wasn't even built yet, but she was planning, collecting wagon wheel furniture. Put in this retreat. I mean, this is her plan. She had so much plans for us, and she didn't plan to die. No, she did not.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, so few ever do. So to that end, do you all intend to continue on together as writers do, as a community of writers, keep in contact?
Oh yeah,
We're all friends and belong to the same guilds and everything.
Right, but that's St. Louis. We certainly will. But beyond that, I think we've all made friends all across the country in Montana, California, Vermont, Texas. I've been to conferences where there were other Dreamspell authors. I went to the Romance Writers of America. We went to BoucherCon in 2011.
Nashville.
And then Killer Nashville. We saw Dreamspell authors all over the place. So now we have friends across the country, and that group seems to survive. And I think Lisa might allow it to keep open. And so we will probably be able to communicate in that nice forum for some time into the future, which is wonderful.
There were quite a few authors there that had been with larger presses that went with Dreamspell because they liked the individual attention, and they liked the fact that there weren't requirements to sell so many copies. Whereas if you do have with a much larger press, there's a pressure to sell so many copies. With a smaller press, there just isn't that pressure, and they liked that. So it doesn't mean they weren't great authors. They just didn't want that pressure.
Well, I can understand that. And I have to say that it's exciting that you all are going to continue together, because then what L&L created, you all will continue to foster.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Here is where I kind of fall back into memory lane a little bit. So how did each of you meet Linda? How did you all get? You kind of touched on that a little bit.
I touched on that. Yeah.
How did you meet her?
Well,
Obviously, you brought her up to the conference.
She was my editor, and she also was the person who was going to do my cover. She read my book and said to me, "This is a dark book." I said, "Well, yes, it's a dark mystery." And she said, "Well, I'm going to do your cover." So I thought, "Oh wow!" But it flattered me that somebody was going to actually read my book and come up with a cover personally just for me, and she did. And she came up with some fabulous covers, if I can say so.
It's
So
very talented.
many genres of romance, fantasy, science fiction, as well as mystery.
Yeah.
And not only, I forgot to mention that the Dreamspell box for new authors.
Oh, that's
that
so
they would
nice.
send with your 5 posters of your cover, with your T-shirt, your Dreams Rock. What else is in there?
The first dollar in a frame.
In a frame,
Yeah.
In a frame with your book
This
cover.
came in your Dreamspell box.
along with your check.
Yeah.
Your royalty
advance,
check.
Your advance check.
Advanced check.
I mean, advance check. Yeah.
And a small press, and they paid advances and royalties.
That's exciting. That's
And
exciting to
give you-
give a little box.
Yeah, then you get your. And I thought, what is this box? And I'm ticking. No, but it was my Dreamspell new author box.
That's
So,
exciting.
Yeah.
We all got that.
So, how did you meet Linda?
Well, Joe had told Claire that this new small press was accepting queries, and so Claire got in there, and she called me and told me, and I sent something in, and I got in there. I told Will, and Will asked me to write a letter for him to my editor. I did, and he got in there, and Peter, how'd you
I have to say that's about the same way, and I have to credit you, Claire, for getting me involved and keeping me involved and telling me,
I'm not going to let you go.
and I'm not going to let you go, and this is the best deal you're going to see for a while, so you better seriously consider it. And she was sure right about that.
But I had never seen Linda until the conference.
Right.
And what year was that?
2010.
Yeah, 2010, because my first one came out in 2010. And that was the first I seen her, and I was assigned to be her escort there, because she was in charge of the whole conference. So then I was in charge of our editor and publisher, and took her around to various things. And it was so funny. This is a little funny story about Linda. We were standing in the foyer, and there was all these other authors and everything around. Someone came up to me, another author, and said, "What are you working on now?" And I described it, which was the one I currently working on, which was set in Branson, Missouri, and country music is the background. I just said something like that. When the person walked away, Linda said, "I'd like to publish that." And I said, "Well, okay, when I get it done, I'll send it to you." And then another person walked up and said, "Hey, are you doing a sequel to Widow's Walk?" And I said, "Yes, I am. I have X amount of chapters done," and described it. And when she walked away, Linda said, "I'd like to publish that." So there I am.
She had a good eye.
Linda was constantly adding to her to-do list.
Yeah.
Apparently, I
Yeah.
get that. She's a very hard worker.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. So, allow me to ask then, is there any advice that Linda gave you guys that you would like to pass on to everyone else here?
Linda didn't preach. Linda just did.
Okay, that's exciting. That's a good
We
way.
just watched Linda work.
However, there was one thing she did. She wrote a book, The Naked Truth About Self-Publishing,
Yeah, she
which in case you have any illusions about it, it throws cold water on everything right away, but it throws even more cold water on the standard publishing industry. The traditional one with the big 5 now. It's no longer big 6. So she read that book. It's available. Well, I don't know how.
She gave it free to all her authors.
Yeah.
But then it's published, and you can.
Yeah, I don't know if you.
Naked Truth About Publishing.
Yeah, that's it.
About publishing, yes. In fact, it talked about self and traditional publishing. But it showed that the small press, they can't send you on book tours. They can't do much marketing for you. But in every other way, they'll treat you probably more fairly, give you a bigger cut of the proceeds, and do more careful editing, and be willing to hold your hand when you get nervous or scared. They do have the tendency to go out of business from time to time, as I've noticed. This is the second one I'm with that's almost gone out of business, and this one, finally, Lisa made the decision to take it out of business.
Well, let me ask you to that end then. How do you all feel about small presses going forward from here? Has this been such a positive experience that, you're all going to be looking to small presses from now on just because of the, something akin to L&L Dreamspell?
I don't think I would turn down a small press. I mean, I'm open to many possibilities. Private publishing is going every direction they can possibly think of.
That's so true.
Quality books are coming out of everything.
I would agree with Claire, and I would say this. Right now I'm going in basically 3 directions. Sure, I'd love to have a good small press, but I'd pick a good one that's been around for a while, that I maybe could count on maybe more than 2 people just doing the whole thing, which is just a killing job for them.
No subcontract.
They did, yeah. There a lot of things they subcontracted, but still, it's a lot for 2 people to be responsible for. But I'm going in the direction at the last Missouri Writers Guild conference. I interviewed with 4 agents. They all asked me for submittals, and I've just gotten the book that I interviewed with, my next book, Radio. It's a story of a woman. It's sort of like Backstage Wife. I'm even thinking of calling it Radio Wife, because it's the woman's side of World War II and the woman's battles with the veteran after he comes home. And it's a wonderful, and a couple of these agents told me, hey, that's women's fiction. That's really, we want to see more of that these days. So I said, I wrote women's fiction? How could I do that? But I held the whole thing in my mother's voice, you see, and that was a good reference point. It's fiction, but it's really based on history. So I'm going in that direction. I certainly am going to see if I can handpick some good small presses. And then, with the book that was just this close to coming out, Fatal Designs, which is another Patrick McKenna mystery, I'm very seriously considering self-publishing that, because in order to get back on Amazon, because we got all taken off of sales through Amazon immediately, it may take a while to get the print book out, because there are still print books in circulation, including I have some, which I'm going to start selling myself online. So having set all that up, I think now I could just go and do the next one using the same procedures, and maybe get both my mysteries going, and then if they start to sell, maybe then I could get picked up by a larger publisher. That would be my one strategy I'm seriously considering right now.
Oh, it's good you're strategizing.
And I've had 2 agents read the first 50 pages of the book I'm working on now, set in Branson, Missouri, and they want to see it when it's done, the 2 of them, and they only sell to big houses. If that doesn't go the circuit of the big houses, then I'll try again for a smaller press. I have good experience with a smaller press, as you can see, and I'm not opposed to that. And I think when you're new in either big press or small press, you're going to have to pay for your own marketing anyway.
It's really true.
So what's the difference?
You count on yourself.
Distribution and circulation is huge.
Distribution is the only thing, and that is huge. And although the small press was able to have us on Amazon, in fact, I was shocked. I Googled my name right after my first book came out, and I found out I was big in Dubai. So who knows?
Hey, excellent. Well, then let me ask you this: do you feel that what you've learned here will help you all as you move forward through your career?
Undoubtedly.
Oh yes. And I think just you want lessons learned. One of the lessons I've learned is I'm so dependent on my fellow writers. It is just so important. Claire has advised me on so many things I can't even count, and Judy has wonderful advice for me. So, and they're just a few of the many authors I've met through.
We're the best.
You're the best, of course. But you're the best to me, I'll tell you that. But
and I got your signings.
Okay. St. Louis Writers Guild has been a huge help.
Yes.
Sisters in Crime is another great organization. There's mystery writers organizations, not here in St. Louis, but in Chicago. There's a romance writers chapter here. So they're just knowing other writers, and they're not all just beginners. Ridley Pearson is a member of St. Louis Writers Guild. We have John Lutz, some very famous writers here. Robert Randisi, who was the last of the great pulp writers, he calls himself, and he loves that title. He invented the awards, what awards? The mystery.
The Eye Awards. The Private Eye Awards.
Private Eye Awards, right. The Seamus Awards.
Seamus.
And he founded all that, and so, knowing all these people that know all this about publishing, it has just amplified my efforts tremendously.
And it helps when you need the blurb.
It
But,
sure
you
does.
know, I mean, it's practical. Practically speaking, we've got to help each other.
And any type of exposure we can get, and this is wonderful. I thank you, Brad, for the St. Louis Writers Guild in doing this. And he's the president, and he's done a lot during his presidency for the last few years. It's been great.
Well, thank you for that. But really, it was just about honoring a great house and a great writer, too. So to that end, if I'm going to ask each of you, start with Claire, just a short memory of Linda or Will or both of them, anything you'd like to share.
Will was so giving. He just always had a smile on his face and never a bad word to say about anyone. Just one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And Linda was the same. Just one of the nicest people I've ever met. She told me at the end, I talked to her and she said, "This too will pass." And I said, "Yeah, I guess it will." And that was her attitude. This too will pass.
Yeah. Well, I've said a lot about Linda and Lisa, but not about Will. I got to know him through, I think it was first Sisters in Crime, although eventually I think he was involved with us at Writers Guild too. And he was very cheerful, very happily married, had 4 lovely daughters. He was surrounded by women, he always said, so that's why I can write about women. And his first novel was called A Reason for Dying, and it was involving the gas fields and lots of engineering knowledge, and I loved it because that's sort of how I write. And it was really about environmental terrorism, and my mysteries are centered around that. So I learned a lot from Will, and I just wish, and he was always so busy, he held a full-time job at Enterprise, first Anheuser-Busch and then Enterprise, and there was an FBI graduate, used to be a section chief at the FBI who now works at Enterprise, who couldn't say enough nice things about Will. And if you want to know in detail, I've written a kind of an obituary for him that appeared in The Scribe, which is our St. Louis Writers Guild magazine, and I believe that's available online, isn't it?
You can find it on our website.
Yeah, the same website you're probably watching right now.
I believe it was fluent in Chinese, too.
Really? I didn't know that. There's a lot I never got to know
He
about
went to China quite
Will.
often.
Yeah.
He worked there.
So, any thoughts or memories about L&L, Linda, or Will?
Will was always up. Even when he was complaining, he was up and animated and just raring to go. You always got yourself out of any type of morose you might be in, and he was instrumental in that. And Linda, I got pictures of her wearing antlers.
That is enough said right there.
I'm going to publish it.
She did that at the conference.
Yeah, in the room, not out among
That's a legendary party, by the way. I've heard multiple stories throughout the years of that party. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and I want to mention one more person. Cindy Davis was one of their main editors. She edited my book. I know she edited
and mine. She taught me a lot about writing.
She was excellent and always had patience with you. So Cindy Davis was another, I guess she was a contracted editor for Dreamspell.
Excellent. Well, now I'm going to open it up to everyone here in the crowd. If anyone here has a question that they would like to ask about Linda or L&L or the experience of authors being together. Anyone? No? Okay. If we have any questions online, feel free to type them out and we can ask them real quick. I will just tell you all, thank you all for being here. I truly appreciate it. I was so glad we were able to kind of honor this great house. I would like to ask one last thing in terms of being together as a writers, and creating this community. Is it something you all kind of expected? Is it something you all, when you got to L&L, was it just a surprise that you had this wonderful community embrace you?
I did not know what to expect, but it was a wonderful surprise, and it helped me grow as a person and as a writer.
Yes, and it was a very pleasant surprise for me, too. I did not expect it, and it was just a great experience.
I had heard some horror stories. You
Mostly
hear
about Peter and Ben.
Yeah, right.
About other publishing houses and that, so like them, I didn't know what to expect. I was just glad they bought my book, as I've said, and that they paid in advance, which made it sound more legitimate. It was, there for a while it was kind of frowned on, small presses, because it sounds like, well, you can't get picked up by a big house, so you got to go someplace like that. But as would you say Private Eye?
The Seamus Awards.
Yeah.
Robert Randisi.
Robert Randisi said, if you get paid even a dime for something, you're a published author. Don't let anybody tell you you're not.
Yeah.
So true. Well, thank you all for being here. Real quick, we had Claire Applewhite, Peter Green, and Judy Morrissey. I will put links to their websites and their books along with this video. But lastly, just would like to say that we're sad to see such a great house go. And Linda, we will miss you. So thank you all for joining us.
Thank
you. Will, we're friends, so see you later, man.